Hey, my hair looks like a crazy person's because I just got off a 6 hour shift, which isn't that long. Just that's why my hair's a mess. I have a speaker that's been broken for the longest time. It is a altec lansing gva2, or known better as the altec lansing speaker that's got a Google Home built in. Here it is. So far, I have used the negotiator, aka a large flathead screwdriver, and I have pried off the clips holding on the button interface. That just kind of came off. Now, at the moment, we are trying to get the. Oh Lord, I can barely see the wall. Hold on. There we go. Got the that button interface off, and the goal now is to get the grill off. That's really what's stopping me from accessing the internals. So from what I can tell, because I have the proper charger for it, is that it's not receiving power anymore. So we have to figure out why. And I've got a soldering station, I've got all that mess. So theoretically speaking, I should have all the tools I need to get this speaker up and running again. Now I don't have any of the plans, the schematics. I'm just gonna start from the power board and move on. Like, I'm gonna plug it in. I'm gonna test the voltage. If it tests 5 volts, then I need to go down the board until I find where it's not supplying the 5 volts. That's the goal, really. I will continue the video once I get this grill off and we make more progress. I have made a development. I'm a big collector of retro consoles and old stuff, so I should have figured this. 4 screws hold in the bottom plate, and that should allow this to pop off. The grill comes off, and then we're into the why doesn't it work problem. So it was 4 Phillips 1 bit screws. They came off. Here is the inside of the speaker. We're just getting started, I feel. Here's the grill. I don't see much of an issue with giving this a small scrub down, but disinfectant's on the table because this speaker is God knows how old, and if I can get it to work again, I really don't want to keep those germs around. But if I can't get this fixed, I'm gonna throw it away. Don't even know how much I paid for it. And you can get them on eBay for about $25, so it's not like the hugest loss if I really do want another one. 4 more Phillips 1 screws allowed me to reveal the actual speaker of the speaker assembly, and I took off this plate. This plate was the cover, I'm assuming, to stop anything from getting inside, damaging the speaker head. Uh, Regardless, I think we're going to have to go a little deeper. Probably something to do with this assembly here. Probably a cold solder joint something broke loose. Like I said, there is a LED indicator supposed to be on this. It's not lighting up. So I'm assuming somewhere power isn't being delivered. I don't think the battery's CAC. It wasn't when I last used it. I'll get back to you when I get further into it. It looks like the button assembly is hot glued in. I guess if you didn't intend on your consumers taking apart your products, that's fine. But I'm taking it apart, and it's going to be a bit of a process to get it out because I don't want to damage anything, and I don't care if it rattles a little when you pick it up. So I might break this hot glue with very little regard for opening it up in the future because I'm going to be the only one accessing this thing anyways. None of the people I hang out with have any desire to open stuff like I do. 4 screws allowed me to release the top interface where the user interacts with the speaker mostly, like pause, play, next, and Google. It is connected to the top assembly via a series of ribbon cables, one big clamp connector. I imagine I am going from this point down because that's where the speaker is. I'm going to assume this is what was installed last after the speaker was soldered in. So we're going to go down further, see if there's any loose connections, something broke. basic stuff, simple problem, simple solution. I'll be right back. A few screws and a few cables are held in the actual interface itself, which is really nice to look at because there's actually some ports. What I'm assuming is that they used this board. This is a much older speaker in other speakers, and you could plug in different sockets for different applications. So we're down to this point so far, and it's not saying it's receiving power at all, despite the fact that I'm using the proper charger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find the battery, which I feel pretty okay doing, considering it hasn't had a charge in God knows how long. I'm hoping that it's just like a disconnected cable, something like that. Well, it looks like some of the wires for the interface are actually glued into the plate between the speaker and the interface. So I actually do think I have to disassemble it from the speaker end to get to that point, kind of ass backwards like an iPhone. I'll let you know how that goes. So I'm in, and I don't know what kind of substance they use to hold this stuff together. It's kind of like a black putty. Well, it's very old. It's still very sticky. So I think I have found the direct line to the battery. I believe you can actually see down in there. Well, not very well from your end, but this is the wire for the speaker. Well, not speaker, but the battery. This plugs into no, this plugs into, yes, it plugs into this one here. So I'm having a cursed thought. A cursed thought to end all cursed thoughts. I could try hardwiring the speaker and removing the battery entirely. I don't know if it's going to work. The only way to know whether or not it's going to work is to clip the battery out and try to remove. Come on. Remove this endpoint here. Maybe run a wire. So I want to keep the original interface, which is this. This is the original interface. I want to keep this. I still want the plug to come out of there. The only way that's going to happen is if I line up the plug exactly to where that one was, and I desolder that plug. I don't know if I had its original 5-volt plug, I wouldn't care. I would just do it because it's already broken. I am assuming the battery is in fact cat, but the cable I have right now is for my ultrasonic cleaning machine. I could attempt to find another 5-volt 1-amp plug that fits it because that's what it needs, and then I can verify that I don't need it for anything else. And then I could try sacrificing that to see whether or not that would work. The big thing now is I don't want to, like I said, it's already broken. It doesn't work. So I could try turning it into a wired speaker, and that would require me plugging everything back in, and kind of hodgepodging using my soldering iron, kind of hodgepodge the cable together. And if that works, because like I said, I would have to find some way to hodgepodge it through the top here. Well, through this board, I think, because I don't know if that button will still on and off the speaker if I bypass it. Well, of course, there's only one way to find out, but like I said, I have to go find that cable, and I don't know if I have one to spare. But like I said, I have a Dremel. The plan would have been to drill a hole exactly where that is, put the wire through it, hot glue it there, if that even works. It just might be a speaker that's just on. Well, the only way to know whether or not it turns on, because so like I said, this is the speaker wire. This is the. I might be overthinking this. This is the wire directly to the power assembly. So it has to go through this, through the battery, into this board. What I could do instead of trying to bypass the battery is to just completely cut the battery out of it entirely. I could try is keyword, solder some wires to the positive and negative plane, and they are labeled, so that won't be too hard. And plugging it directly into the wall to see if that brings it to life. And just took the battery in there. And that would still make it a wired speaker. But that means that I have to take. Okay, so this is the control for the power. This is where the power goes. Okay, so that sits in there like that. Okay. Well, there's channel 6, channel 4. Like I said, that's where the battery plugs in. I could bypass the battery by linking them together. But I want to try hooking up a power something to this. I just don't have anything 5 volts. I've got a Game Boy Advance power thing, but I think that can only push out 3 volts, because that's all the Game Boy. It was a Game Boy Color one. Yeah, it's for the Game Boy Color. I think it can only push out 3 volts. I mean, I could try. I'll let you know how that goes. So that battery without force is just not coming out. Like I said, the hope is that I bypass it. I just had a brain blast. My autism is in full swing. I'm trying desperately to find a cable that will make worthy sacrifice, and then I forgot. What if I just plug the power assembly straight into where the battery is supposed to go? That way, the button still works. All that mess. So this cable, this cable here specifically, hardwired to where these wires are supposed to go into. I don't know if there's enough length on this to do that. So this thicker one is for the actual speaker itself. Yeah, so I'm thinking, what if we forego the battery entirely? Uh, so those are through hole connectors. Maybe I can solder some wires on the bottom of that and connect it to the battery terminals. Maybe. Do I even have the wire to do that? I don't think I have the wire to do that right now. I do if I sacrifice the wires from the battery. If the battery's already cacked, there's not really any harm in doing it that way. I could use the wires from the battery. Because like I said, they're already cacked. I come down as far as I can, strip both ends, positive, negative, bing, bang, boom. Hopefully the battery works. And the reason, and like I said, we're trying to bridge the gap between the received power and the battery power. Basically, we're just trying to get the thing to always register battery full when it's plugged in, effectively making it a wired speaker, which is fine. I'm unbothered by that. So this would plug in normally. What if we plug it in without the battery? What does it do? Does it do anything? Does it light up? No. Let's try assembling a little bit of the board back together to see if that'll get it. Because maybe this is the power wire. Kind of tells the board to, hey, wake up. So that plugs in there. So if this functions fine without the battery, then one is to assume the battery is the problem, and we'll work around fixing it. So we've unplugged the battery. We've unplugged the battery. That is the only thing that is unplugged. This is a 5-volt 3-amp plug, which should be fine. Okay, nothing. There is an LED that should be doing LED things. Okay, maybe it needs the top cable to be plugged in. I'm gonna be honest, if this thing doesn't turn on now, it's well out of my wheelhouse. I need proof at all that this thing wants to live. It could be a fried chip, something that I just don't have the time nor the energy to want to fix. If it was just a hodge job where I take some wires off from a broken part on it to fix it, so that's plugged in. Anything now? No. It's supposed to be lighting up green here. So that it could be the battery's fine. But it's obviously not receiving power. Which is the core issue, right? I honestly think this speaker might be a write-off then. If even trying to bypass the battery doesn't get it to work. It could be that the board itself is faulty. So I'm at an impasse. Uh, this speaker, even battery unplugged, battery plug back in, I'm going to assume it's something chip related. Something just isn't letting it wake up. Either that or the whole thing is fried. Either way, like I said at the start of this, it's only a $25 speaker. I can probably get a deal on it through some seller on eBay because, like I said, it's so old, not really desirable. The only reason I would use it would be to have surround sound with Google Home, but my Google Home is loud enough you can hear it across the house, so I don't really need surround sound. So what I'm probably going to do is keep the screws for parts just in case, I need screws. And I hate doing it because it's awfully wasteful. But I'm just going to part it out, keep the switch, keep the plug, because there's no way to prove that those were at fault. Maybe even keep the speaker, because that speaker might still work. And I know it's a 5-volt speaker, that I do know, because it's a 5-volt speaker. Like the whole speaker itself is 5 volts. Um, Using something else maybe. So it's not a total loss. I get a couple of neat parts out of it, like screws and a pretty hefty speaker. But that also means I got to rip it out. Maybe I can use it for something really funny in a future video. But I thank you for watching, and Solaire does too. He is all sleepy. He's been there the whole time. Refuses to leave me alone. But thanks so much for watching. Sorry for wasting your time. Speaker, at least for me, is unrepairable, or it's just not worth it due to the fact that it's not worth that much. It's not that rare. If I do fix it, I won't be able to sell for very much. Thank you so much for watching.